Steve, it's great to have you back on InvestorStream, and it's certainly a happy new year for your shareholders based on your latest news. Now, I'm just keen to tease some of the information out a little bit just with respect to the lithium carbonate purity levels and the next steps with Lilac. So you produced a battery-grade lithium carbonate sample that, as you say, is 9 months in the making with 99.9% purity and very low impurities from Lake's Kachi brines. Can you explain to us in simple terms the significance of the purity levels and the benchmark battery makers are looking for, importantly when it compares to based on what's available on the market today?
Great, thank you, Alex. Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, the purity level is important. It's relatively straightforward to produce technical grade, but battery grade lithium carbonate is important, and that's normally greater than 99.5% purity. We've been able to exceed that. So that's important. That means that you're actually in the running to produce what people want, battery-grade material. But a more important point that has been pointed out by cathode makers and battery makers in the last 9 to 18 months has been the level of impurities. That the low level of impurities, the ones that have caused problems have been iron and boron, plus some of the major elements like magnesium and calcium, and we've been able to demonstrate very low levels of those impurities. That means that you've then got a quality product that the market wants and needs, almost regardless of demand dynamics. So in comparison to what's available in the market at the moment, as I mentioned, a lot of people do produce battery-grade material, but sometimes some of the impurities cause issues, and that will cause issues on pricing. What we need to do is show high purity, low impurity product that we can then scale up, and that's what we've delivered in today's announcement.
Okay, Steve, so the next point, this sample has been produced from Lilac Solutions' pilot plant based on a direct extraction ion exchange process. The success of this technology is very much linked to the success of Kachi. Can you tell us again how this technology differs from the current evaporation process, and what gives you the confidence that you can produce a sample based on greater volumes of brine?
So the key thing with the direct extraction process that we're using here is that we have no evaporation. That's been a concern around water usage. And the water, the salty water, the brine, we then return back to the aquifer without changing its chemistry, apart from just removing the less than 1% of lithium. So we're not adding anything to it, we're not changing the chemistry. So that's a bonus from an environmental perspective. Then from an economic perspective, it's got a short time frame. We process this in 3 hours instead of 9 or 18 months, so that's naturally a better payback. And then we're still at the low end of the cost curve when we compare the lithium brine producers and the spodumene producers. We're still down at the low end of the cost curve. We'll have more of that in the next few weeks, but that's what's important about this particular process. Then secondly, next part of your question was about how can we produce more of this. We've just sent another large volume of brines down to California, and because we've been able to produce this sample not just at benchtop but from our first modules in the pilot plant, then we've got the confidence that we can scale this up. Because it's one thing to produce something in a lab, but that doesn't really mean much to end users unless you can demonstrate that it can be scaled up. So we're sending more down to the pilot plant modules to make certain that they work before they leave California, produce some samples from there so that we can also demonstrate we can consistently scale up with the same quality.
So you're confident that industry will be excited by this development. What's the process of engaging with off-takers, and what's the plan for testing these brines with more volume?
So we've been dealing with downstream players, cathode makers, battery makers and intermediaries now for some time, more than 12 to 18 months, saying that this is coming, just so that it's on their radar. They have been waiting for us to both complete the pre-feasibility study, but particularly to produce enough samples out of the pilot plant. Normally this starts off with 1 or 2 kilo samples, which you produce first of all, just so that people can see that it is exactly what you're telling them. Then they're 20 or 30 kilo samples, and then with a select short group, then you start sending half-ton samples. But that'll probably be from the pilot plant when it's on site. So look, it's a very, very busy next few months for the company, and we've got a lot of information coming down the pipe.
Thanks, Steve. We look forward to chatting soon when the PFS hits the market. Congratulations on the announcement, and we'll certainly be keeping tabs on how this progresses. Thanks for your time.
Thanks very much, Alex.